आवाज कम कर लो ना मैं।
तो किसी को बार बार फोन करने से ज्यादा नहीं सीधे डायलॉग से कौन सम्राट बात है most you like in your opinion मां I'm a living breathing adult मैं अपने बच्चे को देखता हूं आप अपने लिए ना तो अपने लिए वो देखिए क्या दिख रहा है गुड नाइट
माहौल खराब हो गया।
और मुझे नहीं पता था कि तुम बाहर मेडिटेशन करने जाती हो अब समझ आया अब तो अंतर्यामी है और क्या सुपर पावर है तुम बचपन से इतनी हंसी मैंने क्लास में नहीं लिखा तुम सिर्फ मेरी शाम खराब करने की जिम्मेदार हो जाओ दुनिया बदल लो कम से कम तुम्हारी तरह मैं बहन तो नहीं पालूंगी तुम टाइगर थी शायद लेकिन बेवकूफ
Heart attack took him in his sleep this past January. I'd only met Pete a handful of times at family reunions when I was a kid. He seemed nice enough, always quiet, always watching everyone else talk. My dad said Pete preferred animals to people, which made sense when I saw how well he'd maintained the property. Everything was in working order: the water pump, the electric fence around the pasture, even the rusty weather vane on top of the barn still spun when the wind picked up. My German Shepherd, Duke, loved the place immediately. First day we arrived, he spent hours exploring every corner of the property, nose to the ground, tail wagging like crazy. I'd never seen him so excited. Back in our Denver apartment, the most adventure he got was the dog park twice a week. Here he had 40 acres to patrol. The house came furnished. Pete's things were still everywhere. Coffee mug on the kitchen counter, reading glasses on the nightstand, work boots by the door. I packed most of it into boxes for Goodwill, kept a few tools and useful items. Found his journal in the desk drawer. The last entry was from 3 days before he died. Fixed fence post near creek. Duke acting strange again near barn. Need to check foundation when weather clears. That confused me. I didn't know Pete had a dog, and there was no sign of one when I arrived. No food bowls, no leash, nothing. I figured maybe Duke was a neighbor's dog that visited. Funny coincidence about the name, though. My remote IT job meant I could work from anywhere with decent internet, and the satellite connection here was surprisingly solid. I'd been wanting to get out of the city for years, and inheriting a free house sealed the deal. My girlfriend Becca thought I was crazy, moving to the middle of nowhere, but she agreed to visit on weekends. The first 2 weeks were perfect. I'd work during the day while Duke lounged on the porch. Then we'd walk the property in the evening. He'd chase rabbits through the tall grass, splash through the creek, investigate every sound and smell. The only place he wouldn't go was near the barn. It started subtle. When we'd walk past it, Duke would drift to the opposite side of me, keeping me between him and the structure. If I walked toward it, he'd stop about 30 feet away and whine. I figured maybe he smelled something dead inside, a rat or raccoon, so I didn't push it. The barn itself wasn't anything special. Classic red paint, faded and peeling. Big sliding door on the front, hayloft up top. Inside was mostly empty except for some old farming equipment, moldy hay bales, and a workbench covered in rusty tools. The concrete floor had some weird stains, but every old barn does. Oil, paint, who knows what else accumulated over decades. Becca came to visit that third weekend. Saturday morning, she wanted to see inside the barn. "Come on, maybe there's some cool antiques we could sell," she said, already walking toward it. Duke started barking. Not his normal bark. This was sharp, aggressive. He planted himself between Becca and the barn, hackles raised. "What's wrong with him?" Becca asked, stepping back. "He doesn't like the barn. Been weird about it since we got here." She laughed. "Maybe it's haunted. Your uncle's ghost defending his territory." I didn't think it was funny, but I made myself smile. Duke had never acted aggressive toward Becca before. When she took another step toward the barn, he barked louder and actually snapped at the air. Okay, she said, hands up. "No barn exploration today." That night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to Duke growling. Low and steady, the kind of growl that meant he sensed a real threat. He was standing at the bedroom window, staring out at the yard. I looked out but couldn't see anything in the darkness. The barn was just a black shape against the stars. "What is it, boy?" He kept growling. After a minute, he stopped, but he didn't come back to bed. He lay down by the window and stayed there all night, watching. The next morning, I found tracks in the dirt near the barn. Boot prints, fresh ones. Someone had walked from the barn door to the edge of the property, where the fence met the tree line. The gate there was still chained shut, but the footprints went right up to it and stopped. I called the sheriff's office. Deputy named Logan came out, looked around, took some notes. He was young, maybe 25, trying to look serious and professional. "Probably just someone passing through," he said. "Lots of folks use these old barns for shelter when they're traveling. I'll increase patrols out here, but you might want to put a padlock on that barn door." That made sense. I drove to town that afternoon and bought a heavy-duty padlock and chain. When I got back, Duke watched from the porch as I wrapped the chain around the barn door handles. He didn't come with me, wouldn't even come when I called him. First time he'd ever refused a direct command. I thought the lock would give me peace of mind. Instead, it made things worse. Now I had questions. Who had been in my barn? Why did Duke hate it so much even before the footprints appeared? And why did Pete write about a Duke acting strange near the barn when he didn't have a dog? That night, Duke woke me up again. This time, he was pawing at the bedroom door, whimpering. I let him out thinking he needed to pee, but he ran straight to the front door and started barking. Through the window, I could see the barn. The padlock and chain were on the ground. The door was open. I grabbed the shotgun Pete kept in the hall closet and a flashlight. Duke stayed on the porch, whining as I walked toward the barn. Every step felt wrong, like walking toward the edge of a cliff in the dark. The night was quiet. No crickets, no wind, nothing. The barn door was wide open, but not forced. The padlock was still locked, the chain intact. Someone had removed them from the handles without breaking either. I swept the flashlight across the interior. Nothing looked different. Same old equipment, same hay bales, same workbench. Then I noticed the floor. One section of concrete near the back wall looked different. Cleaner, like someone had swept it recently. I walked over, keeping the shotgun ready. There were scratches in the concrete, 4 parallel lines repeated over and over. They looked fresh. A noise from the hayloft made me jump. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. I aimed the flashlight up, but saw nothing through the gaps in the floorboards. Who's there? This is private property. The footsteps stopped, then started again, faster, moving toward the ladder. I backed toward the door, gun raised. The footsteps reached the ladder and stopped. I waited, heart pounding, flashlight beam shaking. Nothing came down. After 5 minutes of silence, I backed out of the barn and ran to the house. Duke met me at the door, tail between his legs. I called 911 again. Same deputy, Logan, arrived 20 minutes later. We searched the barn together. Nobody there. No sign anyone had been there except those scratches on the floor. Could be animals, Logan said, but he didn't sound convinced. You said the lock wasn't broken? I showed him. He examined it with his flashlight, frowning. Good quality lock. Someone would need the key or some serious lock-picking skills. He looked at me. You sure you locked it? Positive. He nodded slowly. I'll file a report. Maybe consider some security cameras. Hardware store in town sells them. After he left, I sat on the porch with Duke until sunrise. He wouldn't leave my side, kept pressing against my leg like he was trying to comfort me or seeking comfort himself. When the sun finally came up, I walked back to the barn. In daylight, it looked harmless. Old and worn, but harmless. The scratches on the floor were still there. 4 lines, about 6 inches long each. I chained and locked the door again, then drove to town. Bought 4 motion-activated cameras and spent the afternoon installing them. 1 facing the barn door, 1 on each side, 1 pointing at the back. Connected them to my laptop so I could monitor them from the house. That evening, I called Becca and told her what happened. She wanted me to come back to Denver, stay with her for a few days. That's creepy as hell, she said. Maybe you should just sell the place. I can't just leave. All my stuff is here now. Then I'm coming out tomorrow. You shouldn't be alone. I wanted to tell her not to come, that something felt dangerous about this, but I also didn't want to be alone. Duke hadn't left my side all day, following me from room to room. When I sat at my desk to work, he laid on my feet. When I cooked dinner, he sat in the kitchen doorway, watching the front door. That night, nothing happened. Duke slept peacefully. The cameras showed nothing. I started to relax, thinking maybe Logan was right about it being a passing vagrant who wouldn't come back. Becca arrived the next afternoon. Duke greeted her normally this time, tail wagging, looking for pets. She'd brought groceries and her laptop so she could work remotely for a few days. We spent the evening pretending everything was normal, cooking together, watching Netflix. Duke curled up between us on the couch, finally seeming calm. Around 11 p.m., we went to bed. I showed Becca the camera feeds on my laptop. 4 quiet views of the barn, bathed in infrared. She laughed at my paranoia, but admitted she felt better being able to see them. At 2:47 a.m., Duke started growling again. I checked the cameras. The barn door was still closed and locked, but something was moving inside. The side camera showed a faint light through the gaps in the wallboards, like someone with a flashlight. I woke Becca. We watched the light move around inside the barn for 10 minutes. Then it went out. We kept watching. Nothing else happened. Should we call the police? Becca whispered. And tell them what? Someone's inside my locked barn again. How is that possible? I didn't have an answer. We stayed awake watching the cameras until dawn. When the sun came up, I took the shotgun and went to check. The lock was still secure. Inside, everything looked normal, except for one thing. The scratches on the floor had been filled in with something dark. I knelt down and touched it. Still wet. It was blood. I ran back to the house and called Logan directly. He brought another deputy this time, an older man named Frank. They took samples of the blood, photographs of everything, dusted for fingerprints. Could be animal blood, Frank said. Lots of hunters around here. Maybe someone's playing pranks. How are they getting in? I asked. Frank studied the barn for a while, then pointed up. Hayloft door is missing. Someone could climb up the outside and drop down through there. I hadn't noticed the missing door. From the ground, the opening just looked like a dark square. Frank was right. Someone athletic could potentially climb the old wooden siding and get in that way. We'll run the blood, see if it's human or animal, Logan said. Meantime, you might want to board up that opening. They left around noon. Becca helped me drag a ladder from the tool shed to the barn. Duke stayed far away, watching from the porch. I climbed up to the hayloft opening. The door hadn't just fallen off. The hinges had been removed. Recently, from the look of the screw holes. Inside the loft, I found something else. Newspaper clippings, dozens of them, spread across the floor. All from the past 2 years. All about missing persons in Nebraska, Iowa, and Kansas. A couple of them had photos circled in red ink. My hands were shaking as I gathered them up. One headline made my stomach turn. Local man still missing after 3 months. The photo showed a middle-aged man with a friendly smile. In the margin, someone had written, February batch. Disposed. I nearly fell off the ladder getting down. Becca was packing when I got back to the house. We're leaving. Now. I showed her the newspaper clippings. She went pale, grabbed her phone to call 911. I stopped her. Wait, let me think. Think about what? Someone's been killing people. Duke started barking before I could respond. Not at the barn, at the driveway. A truck was coming up the gravel road, kicking up dust. I didn't recognize it. Gray Ford, maybe 10 years old. Mud splattered and rusty around the wheel wells. Get inside, I told Becca. I grabbed the shotgun. The truck stopped near the house. A man got out. 60s, weathered face, work clothes. He raised his hands when he saw the gun. Easy there, I'm your neighbor. Name's Carl Brennan. Live about 2 miles west. I lowered the gun but kept it ready. What do you want? Came to check on you. Saw the sheriff's cars earlier. Everything all right? Duke was growling, low and steady. Carl noticed and took a step back. Someone's been breaking into my barn, I said. Carl's expression changed. Something flickered across his face. Fear, maybe, or recognition. The barn. Pete had trouble with it too. What kind of trouble? Carl looked around nervously, then back at me. Can we talk inside? Rather not stand out in the open. Against my better judgment, I let him in. Duke followed, staying between Carl and us. We sat at the kitchen table. Carl accepted a glass of water, his hands shaking slightly. Pete never told you about the barn? He asked. I barely knew Pete. Carl nodded. Makes sense. He didn't talk about it, especially after what happened to his dog. His dog? Big shepherd like yours. Named Duke, actually. Weird coincidence. Carl saw my expression and frowned. What? Pete wrote about Duke in his journal, but there was no dog when I got here. Carl was quiet for a moment. Dog disappeared about 6 months ago. Pete found pieces near the barn. Thought a coyote got him, but the way it was done. He shook his head. Wasn't no coyote. Becca grabbed my hand under the table. What was it then? Don't know. But Pete changed after that. Started talking about someone living under the barn. Said he heard voices at night, saw lights. I thought maybe he was going senile, but then my chickens started disappearing. Found feathers and blood near your property line. Under the barn? I asked. It has a concrete floor. Carl shrugged. That's what he said. Even called some company to scan underneath with special equipment. They didn't find nothing, but Pete insisted. Week before he died, he told me he was gonna dig it up himself, find out what was down there. Then he had a heart attack, I said. Carl gave me a long look. That's what the coroner said. The implication hung in the air. Becca stood up. We're leaving, today. Might want to wait on that, Carl said. Whoever's been in your barn, they know you're here now. Know you're looking into things. They might follow you. Are you trying to scare us? Becca demanded. I'm trying to help you. Pete was my friend. Good man, if someone hurt him. Carl stood up. I got a rifle in my truck. I can stay tonight, help you keep watch. I wanted to refuse, but something about Carl seemed genuine. And having another armed person around felt safer than being alone. We agreed he'd park his truck where he could see the barn and house. I gave him my phone number so we could stay in contact. As the sun set, I checked the cameras. All quiet. Carl's truck was positioned near the tool shed, giving him a clear view of the barn. Becca and I barricaded the doors with furniture, Duke pacing nervously between windows. At 10 p.m., Carl texted, "Movement in the trees behind barn." I checked the back camera, shadows shifting between the trunks, too deliberate to be wind. Then nothing for an hour. At 11:15, Duke started growling at the back door. The door handle turned. Slowly. Testing. The barricade held. The handle stopped moving. Footsteps on the porch, moving to a window. A face appeared in the glass, pale, gaunt, eyes reflecting the indoor light like an animal's. I raised the shotgun and the face disappeared. Carl, someone's at the house, I texted. On my way. We heard Carl's truck door open, his footsteps running toward us. Then a sound I'll never forget. A scream, cut short. Duke went crazy, barking and snarling at the door. Carl? I called out. No response. I checked my phone. Carl had sent another text. That wasn't me in the truck. My blood went cold. If Carl wasn't in the truck, where was he? And who had been in there? The lights went out, all at once like someone had thrown the main breaker. Becca grabbed my arm in the darkness. Duke's growling got louder, more aggressive. The breaker box is in the barn, I whispered. Through the window, I could see the barn door was open again. That faint light was back, moving around inside. But the cameras were down with the power, and my laptop was dead. A new text from Carl. In barn. Not alone. Help. It could have been a trap. Probably was. But Carl had come to help us, and now he was in trouble. I couldn't just leave him. Stay here, I told Becca. Lock the door behind me. Don't you dare. Duke will protect you. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, get in your car and drive to town. Don't stop. I kissed her, grabbed the shotgun and flashlight, and stepped out into the darkness. Behind me, I heard the door lock and furniture being dragged against it. The 30 yards to the barn felt like miles. Every shadow could hide someone. Every sound made me swing the gun around, but I made it to the entrance. Inside, the light was coming from below, through cracks in the concrete floor. I could hear voices, Carl's and someone else's. Carl was begging. The other voice was calm, almost pleasant. Told you not to interfere. Pete learned that lesson. Please, I won't tell anyone. Of course you won't. I followed the voices to the back corner, where the scratches had been. Part of the floor was gone. A section had been lifted away like a trapdoor. Wooden stairs led down into darkness. The light was coming from below. I started down the stairs, gun first. They creaked under my weight. The voices stopped. At the bottom, I found myself in a basement I didn't know existed. Concrete walls, dirt floor. Carl was tied to a post, blood running from his nose. Standing next to him was Deputy Logan. Logan smiled when he saw me. Not surprised, not angry, just smiled like we were meeting for coffee. Should have minded your own business, he said. His uniform was perfect, badge shining in the light of his lantern. Pete made the same mistake. I kept the shotgun trained on him. Let Carl go. Can't do that. He knows too much. You both do. Logan took a step forward. I pumped the shotgun, chambering around. He stopped. You won't shoot a cop. You're not a cop. You's a killer. He laughed. I'm both. Been both for years. Badge makes everything easier. People trust uniforms. Behind him, I could see more of the basement. Chains on the walls, dark stains on the dirt floor, a workbench with tools I didn't want to identify, and in the corner, wrapped in plastic, shapes that might have been bodies. Pete found this place, didn't he? I said.
आवाज कम करो। क्या इसने पॉज कर दिया? बढ़िया है।
जानी साहब की ब्रिलियंट आर्ट कलेक्शन के बारे में कौन नहीं जानता? So it's something from our studio. राजा रवि वर्मा मेरे अम्मा के
क्या हो गया इसको? ओ भाई 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 ओह क्या चल रहा है? पगला गई है तुम्हारी तरफ। पूरा ही लटक गई। देख तो रहो। पगलू है पगलू। तो मैं बताया नहीं तो उधर ऐसे लटकी हुई थी। वरना अच्छा है गाना। टीवी चला के रखी तो काम हो जाएगी। लाइट बंद करो, थोड़ा अंधेरा करो, आवाज करो, कुछ तो सही। मैंने नेट भी साफ करी थी उसकी अभी परसों से। हाँ अरे वो बारिश के कारण बन गया होगा देखो। बारिश में हो जाता है सीलन आ जाती है। नहीं लाइट बंद करो तुम पहले।